All right, last night. First problem, it says Savannah solves each of the following problems that's shown below. And then they said, are the answers correct? And they want us to explain any incorrect answers. Would someone like to give us a response? All right, so before we look at it, what did we learn yesterday about multiplication and division? All right, we should know that we have the same signs, the answer will be positive. And we should know that we have different signs, the answer will be negative. So looking at A, and then you in the class, the card kept reminding us to count the negatives. He said if we have one negative, the answer would be negative. And then he told us if we had two negatives, the answer would be positive. So looking at A, how many negatives do we have?
2.
Can the answer be positive?
Yes. Yes.
If it would be 18. 18 seems about now. So first they got negative 6 times 12. What's negative 6 times 12?
2.
Multiplication.
72.
72. So negative 72. And then they divided that by negative 4. What's negative 72 divided by negative 4?
18.
All right, 18. Is that what they said we should have had at the end?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to read it. All right, looking at B. Multiplication first. 8 times negative 3.
Negative 24.
And then negative 24 divided by 6.
Negative 4.
That one messed up. All right, let's look at C. Negative 40 times negative 2.
80.
80 divided by negative 10.
8. 8. Negative 8.
5, negative 8. All right, let's try the last one. Negative 7 times 5.
Negative 35.
2.
70. Wait. 70. 14.
5. How many of these were incorrect?
1.
So we would say only 3 were correct. Which one was incorrect?
C.
We would say C was incorrect. She should have solved and got what?
Negative 8.
Instead of what?
8. 8.
Good job. So definitely make sure we answer every part of that question. Any questions about number 1? All right. Number 2, they said Kane made 2 number cubes to use in a game. The faces on each cube contain the numbers 1, negative 2, 3, negative 4, 5, and negative 6. After Kane rolls the 2 cubes, he multiplies the 2 numbers. Give an example of 2 numbers that Kane could roll to get a positive product. Zariah, did you answer A on this problem? Aaliyah, did you answer A for this problem?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us what you got.
Cain could roll 3 and 5 to get a positive product.
Cain could roll 3 and 5 to get a positive product. Okay, good example. 3 and 5 are both positive, so she know the answer will be positive. All right, did somebody else have another example you chose?
Cain could roll 5 times 1. No, 5 and 1 to get positive 5.
Choose any negative numbers to get a positive product.
I did.
Me.
-2 and -4.
-4. Good job. So make sure we know same signs will give us a positive product. Great job. All right, part B said we want an example of 2 numbers that'll give us a negative product. Kanaji, were you able to answer part B?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us what you got.
I've got -2 and 3.
All right, Cain could roll -2 and 3. All right, Armani, were you able to give an example?
Yes, I put -5, 6, and 5.
All right, she got -6 and 5. All right. One more. Trinaya, were you able to give an example?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Elijah, were you able to give an example? Okay, who else on here? Mariah, were you able to give an example? Chanel, were you able to give an example? All right, that's all our examples for a negative product. So make sure we remember for a negative product, we have different signs. Great job, you 5. Any questions? And what I love about the keyword example is that the 2 that I chose don't necessarily have to be the same as the 2 that you chose. Great job. Any questions about it? Okay, dokie. All right, the last one, you have a short activity around the square multiplication with integers. They say you could have chose any of the products or you could have chose the numbers at the bottom. Did someone try number 1?
-8 and -3.
Okay, I got -8, -3. All right, and then it says this equation is correct because a blank number multiplied by a blank number is a positive. What you got in there?
Negative.
All right, good job. I think that was Chanel and Shania. All right, does someone want to try the second one?
8 times 3.
Oh,
8 times 3, so that must mean you got a positive number multiplied by a positive number is a positive number. Good job. All right, did someone try 3?
-8 times 3.
Times 3. So what did you put? A negative and then a positive? Okay, give us a negative answer. All right, someone give us the 4.
-3 times 8.
3 times a positive 8. So you got negative and positive as well. Any questions about it? Any questions about last night's homework? Okay. All right, today you're gonna do a quick mini check on what we've been looking at with adding and subtracting integers as well as multiplying and dividing integers. And I gave us a few strategies to make sure we are trying. The first one says, before attempting to complete anything, get your math notebook or find your notes. Give me a thumbs up if you have your math notebook with you this morning. Good job, good job. So definitely make sure that's one of the first things we grab when it's time for math class, that math notebook. The second thing says, if we cannot find our notes, to try and attempt to do a brain dump. So today I'm gonna show us what a brain dump is before we start trying to attempt to work in a question. All right, the third will tell us to answer the easy questions first. Just kind of skim through the quick check and say, oh, I can easily do this. If you think you can easily do it, go ahead and answer those problems first. Then we'll come back to those that cause us trouble later. And then last but not least, always make sure you check your work. Checking your work is a good math strategy. All right, so before we get started on that classwork, we're gonna do a brain dump. I put the two headings that we've been talking about, adding and subtracting integers and multiplying and dividing integers. So if you feel you have something to remind us of for either of these, just unmute and let us know. What do we know about adding and subtracting integers? What can we use? How do I do it? What do we know? What do we know about multiplying and dividing integers? What's going to be very beneficial to us? Think back to that homework that we just reviewed. What did we learn from that homework about those signs?
If it's two negatives, it's positive. One negative is negative, and two positive is positive.
Two positives and two negatives. Our money reminded us to give us a positive answer. She also told us one negative and one positive will give us a negative answer. Okay, anybody else? Add and subtract. How do we add and subtract when we have the same sign?
The first one will remain the same.
All right, so you tell me just about subtraction is the same as adding the opposite. Subtraction is the same as adding the opposite. So if we add 3 minus 7, she's telling us the first one will remain the same. The negative will change to a positive, and then that positive 7 will change to a negative 7. Good job, Chanel. So in the blue, as I started, if we are adding and subtracting with the same signs, we're going to add those values together and keep the sign. An example, 3 plus 7 clearly will give us 10. If they gave us negative 3 plus a negative 7, our answer will be negative 10 because both are negative. So that's what they mean about same signs, add and keep the sign. We also discussed different signs for add and subtract. If we have different signs, we will subtract and take the sign of the larger number. We will subtract and take the sign of the larger number. And all of this should be in your math notebook. So if you have your math notebook, that's one resource or cheat sheet, as I like to say, that help you on anything we did in the math class, quizzes, tests, anything. So if we have 3 plus a negative 10, they have different signs. So we will subtract the values. 10 minus 3 is 7. 10 is the largest number, and since it's negative, that means 7 will be negative. That's what that one means. All right, so add and subtract, we also talked about something that starts with an O or an A.
additive inverse.
Good job. And what is additive inverse?
Opposites.
What about opposites?
Opposites equal 0.
Good job. Opposites equals 0. 7 minus 7 will give us 0, or if they gave us -3 plus 3, that would still be 0. Good job. Opposites add to 0. All right, for add and subtract. We also talked about one last thing. We talked about distance between points. That was the day I told us that they're on the same side of 0. We will subtract the absolute values. If we have a +7 and a -3, they're on opposite sides of 0. Or did I say same? I said same sign. So let me fix that one. All right, 3 and 7 would be on the same side of 0. So we would subtract the absolute value. 7 minus 3 would tell us that's a distance of 4. So that's what that notion means. And then if they're on different sides of 0, we would add the absolute values. -3, +7, they're on opposite sides. So then we would say a +3 plus 7 would give us a distance of 10 units. What else did we learn about multiplying and dividing? On Monday, we talked about some properties. Anybody remember any of those properties?
Commutative.
All right, it sounded like you said commutative, maybe. All right, commutative property told us we can change the grouping and we'll still get the same product. What happens when I multiply by 1?
The number stays the same.
Good job. That was the identity property. Anytime we multiply by 1, that answer would be that value. What happens when we multiply by 0?
It'll always be 0.
Good job. That was the 0 product property. So this will be a brain dump. Anytime you don't have your notes before you get started with an assignment, just think back to what you do know and then move from there. And I'm going to leave this whole screen up while you are working. If you got any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And as always, take your time, show your work, do your best. Give me the best you.